What's going on, everybody? It's Riz here, and we're going to do another roleplay review, this time for Venture to Vera Interrupted Meditation. How's it going? So in this log, we got Genesis, Jaime, Koshoro, and Saliath makes a short cameo. The type is dialogue, and the arc obviously is Venture to Vera. The synopsis is just before the crew of the Argos make landfall, Jaime tries her hand at meditation with Genesis and Koshoro acting as moral support, and sparks fly. Uh, I'm in a better headspace now, so I can actually talk about this and review it. But this was a very good log because it serves as a purpose of the breathe space. We've talked about this of in between the big moments, right? And we gotta let our characters breathe. This is where they really kind of develop. And Jaime is doing something that I thought was very interesting for an android to do, is that they are meditating and trying to gain like key control. And, for those of you that don't know, like Jaime is more of like the Android 17 and 18, where they're human kind of first and they have android parts to the extent we don't know. But I don't think I've ever seen an android try to meditate, try to channel their inner chi into something. And that's pretty much what they're doing. That's what they're trying to do. And, the gist of this log isn't very long, but I did find some stuff that I can, like, talk about. And one of the big things was that for everybody, like, through the way it opens, the way that, people are kind of positioning themselves and how everybody is kind of interacting, it does a really good job of showing that this is an actual adventure, right? That you guys are literally on the venture to Vera. So, as the person who kind of came up with that title for the arc, thank you, right? So, we're getting the adventure part, the space odyssey bit, and it kind of opens up where Genesis is kind of just milling about. They say that they're a spacer. They've been from planet to planet, and they've been on a lot of spaceships. So they kind of find things for them to do while they're on the ship. And he's just kind of tinkering with this here, trying to fix that there. He even says like there's always something to be worked on. There's always some maintenance to do. And it's a little bit of Doomiston, right, in him, who always has to tinker with things. And Kosho is just kind of working out. And Jaime's doing their meditation. And Jaime really is the focus of this one. Because while they're trying to meditate, while they're trying to focus, Genesis comes in and everybody has their own kind of take on how energy works and how, being ascended, what does that really mean? What does it do for you? How do you reach that level? And they're all just kind of giving them, Jaime, tips on how to do it. And it gets deep and kind of philosophical, but not really. These guys really aren't philosophers, right? We don't have any Platos on the ship, but they all have their own understanding and their own way of approaching it. And sometimes how like this is how I did it, this is how I came up, this is how I discovered it, and others is just like, hey, just figure it out on your own. Like, what do you feel? Because the way that you feel it will be different the way that I feel it, and everything like that. And that's really nice. It kind of is like a bonding moment for everybody, right? And everybody kind of stays within their character while doing it, and nobody kind of gets lost in the sauce, right? Like I feel that the way that Genesis is describing it is Genesis, and the way that Kosho is describing it is kind of Kosho, right? Kosho is more of the just let it out, right? And Genesis is too, right? He's not really one to like approach it as let's have it be something that like we're going to kind of I don't want to say not focus, but he is more like just let it all out, right? And Kosho kind of is the same thing because if you guys remember, Genesis is one of Koshoro's teachers, and Genesis taught Koshoro the flying tiger strikes technique. I think that's what he ends up calling it, but basically he taught him kind of how to wind step like I think the best way is like the hurricane kick from Street Fighter, and that's what I remember from that log being of just like don't try to control the wind, just let it all out. And Jaime is taking it all in, and then while they're trying to meditate, while they're trying to understand this energy inside of them, they hit this Varus Core like protocol, basically like a fail safe that's within them, and it shuts it all down. Gets all it's like bzzz, and they don't really say how many devices are broken externally, but definitely some stuff internally in Jaime is damaged by doing this. Oh, excuse me. And it actually like does 10 points of damage to their RP health. So while they're trying to do that, it's almost like Jaime was programmed not to be able to do this stuff without like Varus code or Varus core codes to override. And that's what I really want to talk about the most, because with what you're doing here, this is a very good start of something. And if you allow me to offer some unsolicited advice and some tips, it would be that I would make this a focus. Like, you put it in red on the page, and you know, Jaime has been talking, I would say almost every roleplay we've had a mention of Varus Core. It's something that is very prevalent to their character. So at this point, from this log, I would make this a thing. And how I would make this a thing, and again, this is just a suggestion. If you have a better idea, you're more than welcome to go with that. My only suggestion, though, is that I would have Jaime not be able to do anything above like accidental damage, basically like Deku, right? Like if you're going to do stuff, you're going to really hurt yourself, and you're not going to be a true ascended until you deal with this, right? Until Jaime deals with this stuff and then make that a thing, right? So if we're on Vera and fighting breaks out, and it's like, when Nappa is flying down because Piccolo and Krillin attacked, and you got little Gohan here, and it's like Gohan fire, fire Gohan fire. And instead of running away, Jaime just can't, right? Because of this internal malfunction. They're like, I really, really want to, but I can't. And it gimps them, right? And that then gives you a reason to go deal with this, right? If this is just something that pops up from now and again, I don't really want to say when it's convenient, but like when it's convenient to be interrupted, then it kind of loses luster. And I just think it's a plot point that's too good to not really go in on, right? Like, Jaime is still Jaime, but when it comes to Jaime being a true ascended being, like, they can't be one because of this. And then, after Vera, that then can become like, okay, so now I've got to go take care of this, right? Now this is literally my story. And I think that's a great way for Jaime to branch off on their own and to not be anybody's sidekick, not to be anybody's like because they kind of say that, like, they see Genesis as a mentor. It's like, while Genesis is a mentor, I need to do this, right? This is my plot point. And I think that's a really good thing. I think I think the main thing from this log is that was the focus for me. It's just one sentence, it's just a warning that pops off. But the way that it's set up is just telling me I feel like that's the move to make. So, for everybody else that was in here in this log, like, y'all did y'all did some really good support here. I feel like especially Koshoro was really trying to help Jaime get to this point, right? And Gen as a teacher is just kind of like, I put the math problem in front of you, figure it out. and I'll watch, and it'll be interesting. And I don't think it's just like I'm just gonna watch you and not do anything. I'm gonna watch you and see how you fail, so I know how to help you. And Koshoro is a little bit more hands-on. Koshoro is a little bit more like, I'm gonna really explain this to you as best as I can, so that there's no confusion on what's going on, and just see where it goes. But yeah, I think this was a good log. I think this was again, a good starting point. And for as short as it is, I think you may have found a really good story to tell with this. Again, I can just think of like 1,001 ways that it's pretty funny, because Jaime is tier 1 in game. They are tier 1, but it doesn't necessarily mean IRP, you have to reflect that, right? Like, you can never go above what your tier says, but you also don't have to be at your tier if you feel narratively they shouldn't be, if there's some reason, right? Like, we've had moments where people have been depowered and we've just ran with it. And I feel like if Jaime were to have this crutch, this boot on their power, it would be pretty interesting. And also, it would be interesting to see them, like, how they would have to overcome it in situations without just like turning it off, right? Kind of like the Hulk in Endgame. No, not Endgame. Infinity War, right? Bruce Banner can't become the Hulk, but how can he still be helpful? Oh, he gets in a Hulkbuster, right? So anyway, that was my review. It was a good one. Good job, and I'm kind of curious as to see where this is going to go. So my name's Riz, and I'll see you guys next time.